Hey everybody, what's going on? Rob Cesternino back here with another Traitors feedback show. And Pooya, we've got another good one here today.
We do. I'm very excited to break this episode down and to talk to our guests and see what their insights are. I can't wait.
One of the great RHAP guests that we're ever going to have. Of course, you know her. She's the winner of Survivor South Pacific. Of course, from Winners at War. Maybe future traitor, Sophie Clarke. Sophie, how are you?
That's how I was going to introduce myself. I was going to be like, you left out future traitor, so I'm glad you threw it in there.
Yes. And the traders probably should think again tread lightly before they mess with Sophie the Faithful.
Oh, you think I'd be a faithful? I like that. Probably.
I think so.
Yeah.
Which would you
I like
rather?
that. I'd like to be like some combination of like Peter and Sandra as a faithful. You know, Peter like having the clout, being the leader, but like Sandra with maybe more of the brains.
Okay.
Not more of the brains than Sandra. I don't want to
only Peter.
Spark another fight with Sandra. I would like to be clear.
No,
like
you're good. You're
equal
good.
brains as Sandra.
Peppermint did not even need to step in to mediate with you and Sandra, right?
Exactly. No, I think you mediated Sandra and I. You were the Peppermint of 2011.
I try. I try, Sophie. Anyway, it's so nice to have you on to talk a little Traitors. How are you doing?
I'm great. I have 2 kids. I don't know if I spoke. I don't know if I've been on here.
No, we talked only in September. We talked in September about what was going on with Suri on Big Brother.
Oh my God, it was only September. Okay, then so my daughter Teal is 1 and my son is 2.5, and I'm spending most of my time working, raising children, and angling to get on the 3rd season of The Traitors.
Yes, you're just angling for a vacation, right?
Yeah, exactly. Although I hear it's only 10 days and I hear you stay in an airport hotel, which really disappoints me because I feel like one of the things I love about The Traitors is the whole like immersive world part of it.
Yes.
And so it's sad to me that I hear that they stay in hotels.
Pooya, did you know about this airport hotel?
I didn't know the exact location, but I did know that they don't live in the manor throughout the time. They get driven off at night and then brought back in the morning.
Okay. I'm so curious to know the like production behind that, like how how they do the nighttime traders. Are they all like waiting room by room for that to happen?
Yeah. Well, when you find out, you tell us, okay, Sophie?
When I come back, I'll do it behind the scenes.
When you come back, you'll do a deep dive with us, and we'll get into everything. Anyway, so would love to get your take on everything. First of all, what's your take on season 2 overall?
Well, I suppose I should preface this with I don't have a take on season 1 because I didn't see it. But I will say, like, season 1, I tried to tune in. I like Suri. I wanted to watch it. And I think I fell asleep like 20 minutes in. And the competition really confused me in season 1. I was like, I couldn't figure out why anybody cared about the competition. Season 2, like, the characters themselves, like, drew me in immediately. It's not that maybe I care about Parvity slightly more than Suri. I don't want to, like, get this into a competition. Like, I equally interested in the people on the show.
In fairness, you watched all of Big Brother 25. That should count for that.
Thank you,
Suri. If you're watching, Sophie put in a lot of hours.
Thank you, Rob. But yeah, I mean, I'm just as a newbie to the Traitors in season 2. What I've loved about it is, 1, the immersive world part of it. I love that everybody takes the costuming seriously. I loved the Parvity scene with the chalice, the poison chalice. I love the scenes of them in their bed, worried that they're going to get murdered. I even love the language that they use, that they actually use the word murdered and not kind of kicked out. So I like the immersive world. As somebody who loves the Bachelor Reddit and wishes that post Survivor looked more like post Bachelor, meaning like a continuation of the drama of these people's lives, I love the like kind of bringing together of all of these different reality worlds into like what feels like fan fiction. Like somebody must have written this. It's crazy that they're all in this house together murdering each other. Yeah.
I don't think I knew as much about your pedigree into Bachelor Nation. Is this a recent phenomenon?
You know, I started watching Bachelor maybe in 2011 I don't think I watched any reality TV other than Survivor before I went on Survivor. After I went on Survivor, I think I gained a whole new interest and appreciation for the genre. So started watching The Bachelor and have pretty much watched it ever since. But I would say now I don't love The Bachelor, but I love the Bachelor world. And I love Bachelor in Paradise, which is, I don't know, I feel like it's almost like the Reindeer Games equivalent of Big Brother. Like you're now
Yes.
everybody's only going to watch the Big Brother so that they can tune into the Reindeer Games and enjoy it. And yeah, I mean, this is why I love Big Brother too. Like more than the show, I like just as a human, I really love having a like secondary world that is happening that I get to think about continuously, whether that be on TV or in the Bachelor case, off TV, just like in these people's lives that turn into, reality TV drama in themselves.
All right, let's talk about how our survivor friends are doing here so far, Sophie. Now, you got to appear on the Winners at War with both Parvity and Sandra. Although I don't think that were you ever on on the tribe with? Oh, you were on the starting tribe with Sandra.
Starting tribe with Sandra, and then Edge of Extinction with Parvati.
Got it. Got it. Okay. So, what's been your takeaways watching these survivors at work here?
Uh, so Sandra, I think, always impresses me. And I think sometimes Sandra gets like almost pigeonholed into uh, just like an anybody but me kind of strategy. Like, I think there's a lot of people that still, despite winning twice, like still to this day underestimate Sandra. And I think one of my memories coming back from Winners at War was feeling like really terrified of Sandra and her power. Largely, like Sandra was an incredible and unabashed liar at Winners at War. Like she just straight up made up a lie. Like it was, I'm trying to remember exactly what it was, but it was something about the way that like Tyson reacted to Rob when we showed up without Amber. And the way that she committed to this lie, like I fully believed it. And she has this way of like also ingratiating with her people. I watched on this most recent episode of The Traitors, I noticed like after she won the Shield, she hugged every single person in this like jubilant manner. That just was clear that like you might not see it, like she might seem kind of cold almost like watching her, but like when you play with her, she really manages to like kind of I don't know, like put you on your heel. Like you're not really thinking that she's going to be as cutthroat as she actually is.
Pooya,
That's my
did you
Sandra
know
take.
this about Sandra?
Well, I feel like I agree with what Sophie's saying, is that I think still a lot of people are like, well, she invented anybody but me. That's all she's doing. But I think what people fail to realize is Sandra's also played these games more than twice, more than 3, 4 times. And you can't have that reputation and stick to that plan. You have to pivot. And I think Sandra's clearly shown that not only has she been pivoting, but also she's someone who's done her homework, Rob. I think in this cast, I would argue that Sandra's probably the most prepared because she's watched all the other iterations. She's coming up with defense mechanisms to deal with this Faithful the Faithful group, and it is an amazing sight to behold.
Yeah. So I think that this was the week that I think a lot of people might have been waking up from sleeping on Sandra a little bit, Sandra the Faithful. And Sandra, if I may share a Instagram post, Sandra shared a post about this specific moment with the pool balls. She said, I want to make something clear. During that strategy session, I also made it clear that hopefully the traitors were in our group so that they could murder each and every one of the so-called most faithful of the faithful, therefore allowing the faithful in the leftovers to get to the end of the game. Self-preservation and end game strategy, what a lot of people don't seem to understand is faithful also have to go, just like the traitors. We all can't get to the end. No one there is oblivious to the fact that Parvati and Phaedra have already been called out several times. That's actually manageable. If new traitors enter the mix, then we have to start back from zero.
I mean, frankly, I think Sandra knows that Parvati is a traitor and like probably
100%.
have known for a long time.
Yes.
Like for a long time. They've played together. Like you can tell these kind of things.
Yeah. But I just thought that that was really interesting. And I had never really thought about it that way of that okay, all right, great. We know that's only part of the game. Find out who the traitors are. We also have to get rid of a bunch of the faithful also.
Yeah, the reality is the end game of the Traitors is the same across all franchises, where you kind of whittle down to a final 5 or 4, and then you're at this thing called the Fire of Truth, where if everyone at the fire agrees to not banish anybody, the game is over. If there is a traitor amongst you, the traitor wins all the money. If not, all of you split the pot. So even if following that line of logic, only 3 faithfuls or maybe 4 can make it to the end game. The rest have to go regardless. And this is why I feel like, you know, we kind of saw the up and down wave that was Pilot Pete really, you know, be revered by so many as, oh my God, he nailed Dan, he fooled them, they fell for his bamboozle. But now he's essentially ostracizing everybody but his own group of 4. And you are not incentivized to work with this man any longer. Thank you for your service, but bye-bye, your departures now, because I have no reason to work with you now. You are clearly making it clear that if there's only 4 spots at the end where faithfuls, you've picked your 4, and I'm not in that 4, so I'm going to do something different.
Yeah, it's like Sandra has clocked the fact that, she's clocked the fact that the game is not what it appears, right? As much as Alan Cumming and the producers want everybody to focus on like find a traitor, traitors versus the faithful. To your point, Pooya, it's also the faithful versus the faithful. It's like,
oh yeah,
the best thing to do is the goal is not to expel traitors and then you win, right? The goal is to probably find a traitor, be in an alliance with them and 2 other people, and get to the end with them and know who they are. Like basically know who they are and don't expel them. The minute you expel them, you're now disadvantaged because now there's going to be a new one who you do not know.
right.
And this is where I think Steven and other like hyper gamers probably have 1,000 ways to fix the game. But
yeah, and I feel like it really depends on how the cast is operating, because the reality is if there isn't a group of faithfuls working together so openly, yeah, just try and whittle out the traitors and just survive as a faithful. Self-preservation, survive. But we saw this happen a couple weeks ago with Larsa getting banished, where everyone's like, well, clearly Larsa wouldn't have killed Marcus. Yes, Larsa wouldn't have murdered Marcus. Maybe times have changed now. But the fact of the matter is, Sandra saw that and was like, I'm not letting the Bravo women just whittle down the rest of the people and kind of flip script on them while still maintaining a good relationship with everybody, so that when Larsa did leave, she wasn't looked at as like the key behind the opposition, and she's able to now scoop up MJ. She's able to have Sheree work with Sheree. Yeah. So and Phaedra. So it's a phenomenal job that she's doing. And I also love it because, again, depending on what the rest of the group is doing, you have to pivot accordingly. And she's clearly adapting to her environment.
Yeah.
Sophie, but isn't this, as you were alluding to with Steven and the gamers, like a flaw in the game that the production needs to fix? Because that if the traitors end up sort of like, okay, let's just try to sideline the traitors as much as possible. Okay, we'll figure out who they are, but we won't actually banish them. We'll just like suck up to them and try to work with them. Like, doesn't that make for a boring show?
Yeah, I mean, it turns it into like a Survivor show where you're hyper incentivized to begong another tribe, where like you so happen
I'm gonna
to
go to the end with Coach, but then I'm gonna then beat him in the final tribal council.
Yeah, exactly. Where Brandon's the traitor, who you get out at 5. Yeah, I do think like there needs to be some fix here, and I think the problem is like how the show is so fun to watch that like I'm almost mad at Sandra for calling out the obvious and breaking it, because as long as everybody just pretends that the goal is to get rid of the traitors, like the show is still really fun. And how do you fix it without making it like, I think just about Winners at War and how complicated that token system was, and how it probably was like an incredibly interesting game dynamic that they could have evolved into even a more interesting game dynamic, but it's not good TV. And as somebody who, yes, loves games, I also just want good TV. And I don't want 15 very complicated mechanics that I can't follow on Thursday night.
Yeah, it's interesting because I feel like in the other iterations I've seen, you don't quite often see it be so split with such big numbers. Like you'll see traders befriend different people from different pockets. And typically there's not more than like 2 or 3 people that are actively working together that closely. The other side of the coin, Rob, is I do think especially for these reality TV crossover seasons, if Traitors US continues to do this pattern, is if I'm Parv and Sandra's clearly going to bat for me, I keep Sandra. I cut her before we get to like final 7. She gets murdered right at the end there because the reality is she probably knows. And if so many people are saying Parv, you're like, okay, I should be going at some point, but Sandra's going to bat for me. Great. But at some point you will just call me out and vote me out. So you gotta think of that as a defense as well, is to if you've got someone really close, you got to boot them if they
I
figured
agree.
you
I
out.
think the end game might be really interesting for that reason. Like there's going to be a little bit, I got to get you before you get me. But at this point, it's like Parvati and frankly, even Phaedra, are they backed into a wall? Like how do they come up with some big con to actually recover? Because in the end, even if they don't get voted out for a while, they need to recover at the final four, right? When they can convince people that they're not a traitor. And I don't know how they do that.
Sophie, did you agree with the decision to try to recruit Pilot Pete?
I agreed with it from a purely entertainment
Yes.
standpoint, which
Yes.
by the way, I think was the reason that Parvati was doing it. She gave no good reason other than like, I think this would be fun, which I agree with. Um, I like other than that, no. Like I don't see how that was going to actually help her case. I mean, the only thing, now saying that, the only thing that I suppose might have helped her case is if she had managed to recruit him and do what she then tried to do, which was get rid of him, right? And he would have been a traitor. Maybe she could have passed off all of the shade that had been pushed on her as like clearly Peter was the traitor the whole time, not recently recruited, and thus, nobody be worried of me. But I don't know. Was there a good reason you guys saw?
We kind of spoke about it, and ultimately where I landed was Parvati thinks her time is coming up. The curtain's going to fall down on her soon enough. Let me poison Peter. Let me make this guy who's so incredulous about being the most faithful be the evil one, be the menace that has to, stab his own friends in the back. And if you're Peter, she just gave you a golden ticket to the end if you really play your cards right. So for him to say no was baffling, but I agree. I don't think it was the most ideal recruiting option for her either. But I think murdering him or one of his friends would have just had people looking at her the next night anyway. It's kind of like swing for the fences.
I agree. His no was crazy to me. Like he's in such a good position. I mean, now less of a good position given what Sandra did with her pool table, but like he was in such a trusted position. Like how incredible of him to pick up the option of not splitting the prize pot.
Sophie, did you have an opinion about Pete coming in from your Bachelor knowledge?
I'm impressed with him. So my Bachelor knowledge is that he's kind of like a playboy, dated a lot of people. He had this on and off relationship that kind of was like literally his like fourth pick on the show. That after he got through the first three, he started dating her, stopped dating, started dating, stopped dating. But like I don't know. I didn't see the Ari. I don't know how Ari performed. But what's been exciting for me, actually, I even love less seeing Pete on the Traitors and more thinking about like now, because I like The Bachelor so much, like now understanding Pete more as a human being makes his Bachelor season a little bit more clear.
Will you go back and rewatch it?
I don't think I'll do that. Maybe if I have like 6 pregnancies on my 6th maternity leave, but that
What's
would
his
be really
dating
digging
situation
deep.
like now, Sophie? Do we
I
know?
don't know if he's still with Kelly. I think he and Kelly broke up. I mean, I would have loved a Peter Parvati romance just for the fun of it. But
yeah, Parvati's taken.
yeah, I mean, I also love as a former survivor. Like I feel like we are this weird, like we have street cred, because like we survived on an island, but like we don't have the Instagram cred. We're not like, I don't even think we're
Right.
necessarily cool kids. But so I kind of like watching the Traitors and seeing Parvati kind of crush it, and also seeing them gain clout in these kind of like larger stages. Bravo,
Yeah. You'd like to see more of the survivors break out into influencing?
I think I would. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the challenge doesn't really do it for me. I kind of think the challenge is a lateral move for survivors, whereas I feel like the Traitors is a
I
step up.
agree. I agree. Let's talk about Parvati. Now, Sophie, you were showing us that you are wearing a headband today.
Yes. Yeah. Representing. I'm I'm liking Parvati on the show. Like I think I like that she's just like leaning into the character that she's been given. I think so glad. I don't know what she would have been like as a faithful. I think she would have been wasted. I think like it completely makes sense that her, spider, I don't know, Black Widow thing has like kind of the end of that story has landed her here. I loved the like the goblet thing. I'm just worried that like this is going to be the end of getting to see Parvati really kind of morph back into the Micronesia character. Like I just don't see how she's going to dig herself out. I also really want to know way more about when Phaedra said to Parvati in the turret, like, Parvati, nobody likes you. Like, to me, that was fascinating. I want to know why nobody likes her, because Parvati is like a very divisive character in Survivor as well. Like, I
Mhm.
think a lot of people, right, have called Parvati in her like past, you know, a mean girl, a flirt. Like, they've really put her down.
Yeah.
And I was surprised to see that still happen today.
Sophie, let me float past you. This is my theory of Parvati, where I feel like that in this game and her past Survivor experiences, I feel like that the situations where we've seen the best of Parvati has been where people sort of gravitate towards her, where we see especially young women are sort of like are interested in just being in her orbit. But if if people are not feeling her, she will never be the person to gravitate towards anybody else. It has to be people come to her.
Yeah. Rob, I think that's like incredibly astute. My mind, I will say, was slightly blown as you started
Slightly
saying that.
blown. Yes.
Because also I was just thinking about how does that contrast to other Survivor players that I've played with or seen. And I think it's true. Like Parvati, you know, particularly, you know, you think Micronesia with, and I would say both men and women on this front, right? There's this
Yeah.
like kind of Parvati aura that people are like thrilled to be in. I do wonder if on the Traitors, because of like her reputation, that's so hard. Like when people are aware of an aura, you're a lot more like, you know, reluctant to be sucked into that aura. And so thus the person has to like make more entreaties to other people to like actually be effective. I think about Kim on Winners at War. Like I went in being like, Kim is a Kim is a like social witch. I must be careful. But I think that's exactly right. And I also just think compared to thinking also compared to myself, like I am not as charming as Parvati. Like I have spent a lot of time with Parvati. She's very charming. I am not that way, and that's not the way I am allowed to operate. And I think like I might have to much more like operate by kind of surprising people with my outreach to them, right?
Yes.
Surprising them that like I'm so willing to kind of like humble myself and like what can I, you know, how can I make you feel like the center of attention? And it's just it's like such a fascinating difference. I'm trying to think of other people like Parvati who've won Survivor, because I also think that like to have somebody like that who also wins is so incredible, because like that person so clearly obviously like um shines bright, for lack of a better word, and it's in a very obvious way that if you're not sucked in, you're like saying let's get this person out. And so the
Mhm.
fact that she's been able to operate in all these games like that and be successful is kind of crazy.
Yeah. Let me bring in a question from one of our listeners. Isaac wanted to know, can Sophie talk about the comment Ice Queen Parvati? I do feel like that Parvati's acting a little bit different than we've seen on Survivor. I'm curious, Sophie has any input on it from her time together on Winners at War. Have you been getting Ice Queen from Parvati?
Wait, do we think she's acting different? I think she's just in a different circumstance. Like I think to your point, Rob, Parvati, you know, is somebody who like attracts a lot of people to her. But isn't somebody always to like, you know, try to become friends with absolutely everybody.
Hmm.
And I think in Survivor, we've often seen her in circumstances with a lot of people who are attracted to Parvati and that come to her.
Yeah.
And maybe there just aren't as many people there. I also do think Parvati is going through like what I've read that Parvati has said is like she's had a, you know, we saw Parvati first when she was what? I don't know, 20 something. And
Yeah.
now she's I don't know how old Parvati is. My point is like it is very natural for a woman to change
I
after
think she
having
recently just had her 40th birthday.
a child and a divorce,
Yeah.
and you know, coming out as queer and like all of these new changes, and the idea that we should all like expect Parvati to be the same Parvati we saw on Cook Islands is kind of crazy. um I do think she's probably being a nice queen, partially because I think Parvati, I mean, my take, I'm not a psychiatrist or anything like that, but my this is probably, I should probably stop here. Like if you have to say I'm not a psychiatrist, this is when you should stop talking.
Yeah. Let the
But
record show.
um like I think Parvati got really branded in a way that not many Survivor people do by the world. Like Parvati is a flirt, and this was all put on Parvati. I think Winners at War, she was a pretty vanilla character. Like she didn't have an opportunity to rebrand herself. She was almost like voted out too fast. She was in the heels of like her first child. I can't think of like how Parvati in Winners at War was a distinctive change from her prior kind of character. I get the sense that on Traitors, she's like making a concerted effort to like own her image in a way that she wasn't able to on Survivor. And I think a part of that is like her image has always been Black Spider, Widow, whatever. How can she be that, but like, you know, in a way that she controls? And I think that's a little bit like where we're seeing this Ice Queen thing emerge.
I also feel like in the last like couple cycles here, basically since the Pilot Pete gambit with the whole shield thing, I feel like Parvati has kind of been caught and also discounted now, like afterthought to everybody. No one's really like, we've seen actively people stop talking when she walks into a room. They, you know, Pete is laying it on way too thick publicly on her. I think that is grating to someone, and you can treat it one of two ways. You either end up being like the wounded bird of, I really don't know what else I can do. Like you're getting that sympathy, or you're like, screw all of you.
Yeah.
This is annoying, and I'm just not going to put up with it. And I feel like that's kind of what's happening with Parv, where she's like, this is irritating to me. Like nothing is working. No one's listening. And I'm essentially kind of a discounted person here who no one is listening to. So why should I care?
I agree, Pooya. I feel like there is like one level of strength in character where she's like, instead of being wounded by it, she's like, fuck it, you guys all suck. But the next level that like I hope she goes to is to say, and like now I'm gonna like come up with this mastermind plan to screw you all over. I don't know if she's gonna get there or if she's gonna get just to the place of like, yes, I was a traitor, haha, Ice Queen, whatever. I don't give a shit about you. Okay, I'm gone. Bye. Like I would like to see her kind of, you know, I don't like just be even more energized by the position that she's been put in.
So do you think that she could trust Phaedra?
No, but like I don't think I would trust any of those housewives except for MJ. Actually, especially not MJ. Like, what is in those pockets? MJ's pants are crazy.
Okay.
It went viral this
yeah,
this
can we
week.
talk about that? Because like I wasn't online too much over the weekend, and then I came back, and then my entire Twitter was just all people talking about this moment from the episode, which was presented to us without any explanation of was this like a Big Brother task where she had to like go into the diary room and then wear like crazy shoes or something, and then why is she moving like this?
I think so. My take, because just given how she's lifting the pants a little, as someone who would buy pants, I wanted baggier jeans, but also they were too long for me as a teen. I had to do this often to have my shoes not, have my jeans go under my shoes. I think that's what's going on here. She's trying not to trip.
I agree. Massive like wardrobe malfunction. Like those pants made sense when she was sitting down and skimming, but she can't move in them.
Yeah. Do you think that maybe like her assistant went out and bought the pants like this and then just packed them, and then there was not a try on before we went to the Traitors Castle?
I mean, it's possible, but also these, I don't remember what shoes she's wearing, but
she's wearing like stilettos.
Okay, so if it's still too long at that point, then it's an issue. Because I was gonna say maybe they're like flats or something.
Do you think she tried on like 4 pairs of shoes that morning and was like, God damn it.
None of them were.
That's why she went with the stiletto.
Went higher and higher. Oh, but see, this is why I love the Traitors. Like, I have no idea who MJ is. Frankly, I think I'm going to watch all of Bravo now just to enjoy the Traitors more. But like, this woman clearly should not be on any kind of like game show type thing. Like, she's out of her element, but I love it.
We love it. Okay, Sophie, I know you're a big Big Brother fan. What did you think of Dan and his run here this season?
Big Brother fan, but like only recently, in the last like 6 seasons. So I don't think I've ever seen I've never seen a Dan season. So don't have a lot of context there. Have seen on YouTube the funeral, so like aware of what that was. I mean, I like having a little bit more of the straight man kind of personality on these shows. I wouldn't even call him the straight man. Like I would call him like probably the hyper focused gamer.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he just made a miscalculation. Like everything I've read and listened to said that he just truly wasn't talking to anyone. He was like hyper quiet. He had to know that like coming in as a gamer, people were already going to be suspicious that might he have been chosen as a traitor. It just seemed like he had this concept that being quiet was going to
Yeah.
be like, and then it got too far and he couldn't recover.
Sophie, I feel like you mentioned that about Dan, and you also talked about Parvy's reputation. But I almost feel like that coming into this traders world, I feel like that while yes, Sandra might know who people are and Janelle might know who people are, I feel like the bulk of these like the Bravo people that are
Yeah.
coming in, I feel like you're basically like a total stranger to them. So I don't know how many people like were thinking about reputations when it comes to like the Parvitys and Dans of the world.
Yeah. Do you think he
I
made
think he was
it?
just
Is this,
quiet.
I was gonna say, is that Dan? Like, is that just him being him, or was that a really like? It seemed like it was a really purposeful bad choice on his part.
Yeah. So I feel like in Big Brother, obviously we know it's a week to week thing. Basically, from Monday onwards, the noms are locked, so nothing matters. And you can just kind of like coast and set up your next move. But for me, the vibe I got from Dan throughout was Dan always seems to have had this plan in his back pocket of when I give them a name, it's going to be a traitor and I'm going to
And they're gonna
be
believe it.
yeah,
Yeah,
and I'm the best detective there ever was.
yeah,
Basically, he ends up in the Pilot Pete slot where
yeah,
he caught a traitor. And the problem was he didn't build any foundation on this.
yeah,
And so when he throws Phaedra's name out with zero buildup, he's banking on Phaedra slipping up or getting like
yeah,
flustered in the moment. That doesn't happen. And all it does is kind of put some suspicion on Phaedra moving
yeah.
forward. But I think he just didn't build on it in the beginning. He didn't build on it and it came back to cost him. That and obviously underestimating the Bravo Bachelor, basically anyone that wasn't on like a competitive reality show.
I think that's a good point, Pooya. Like one of the things I've been most curious about in the traders is like when I think about Survivor, when I think about games like this and what I do, like I really think that like proactive lying is the best kind of lying. Like you're never like on Survivor, it's never enough in my view to just like when somebody comes to you and says, "Hey, do you want to be an alliance?" Say yes. That like the way to really make yourself believable is you have to be the one kind of like proactively creating these fictitious worlds with people, and going to them and kind of over the top coming up with these like kind of ideas about how you guys are going to work together, full on knowing that that's not the plan at all, and that's what makes somebody really believable is like the small ways. It's not them agreeing, it's the small ways that they bring things to you and they propose things that you think in your mind like they would never do this if this wasn't real. And I really want to know from the traders perspective, like what of that have they been doing in the house? Because I think they rarely show us Parvati or Dan or Phaedra putting out names, right? Like ginning up the other players. And I have to think they're not just sitting there like I wish Dan had more sooner like played the detective role, played like tried to be a
Mhm.
lead role. Like that would be so cool to see the trader going above and beyond casting like aspersions. But it seems like either they've all been just kind of reactive playing low or we just haven't seen it.
So I feel like to me, Phaedra is very clearly playing a very passive role where
Yeah.
she's like, I'm undetected, so have at it. I don't care. You want this name? Cool. I'll float that name out. It doesn't matter to me. Or you want to murder this person? Go ahead. That's cool. With Dan, obviously, we saw him be very silent. With Parv, I feel like obviously ever since the gambit with Pete, she's pushing Pete's name out as suspicious, which is Mission Impossible almost at that point because he's
Yeah.
clearly the one who gave us the info. But that's all the hyperfixation there is on Pete now.
But it's almost like the traders aren't even incentivized to do that because it's if they just say nothing, the faithful are just going to come up with a name on their own. And then if they put out a name, eventually there's like a non-zero chance that it could get turned around. Like, well, where did you hear that
Yeah.
name? Oh, Dan. Okay. Oh, let's go after him. So that I don't know if there's a ton of like incentive for the traders to be like ginning up. It would be great to see and great TV, but
Mhm.
I don't know
I
if they're
yeah.
incentivized for it.
I agree, and I think it actually probably has a lot to do with who they're playing with. Like when you're playing with a bunch of Bravo people and you're playing on like level 1, right? That kind of action probably just is seen as suspicious. But if you're playing on like level 6, right? Or like you think
Mhm.
about like friends you have where you're playing,
I don't know if anybody from level 6 from BB20 is there.
like the Resistance or Mafia or like Secret Hitler, like depending on the group you're playing with, you're like your strategies, right, are on 10 different levels. It's like my sisters and I, when we did rock, paper, scissors, shoe, it just got insane because we all had these crazy strategies of like, okay, one of us, like I used to go like rock, paper. Oh, oops, sorry, I went too early. Rock, paper. And then it's like, oh, now I'm in their brain about going too early. Am I still going to do the scissor? Am I not going to do the scissor? Am I going to go one? Or am I going to go two? And the problem with the Bravo people is like, you're never doing that, right? Like you have to play level one.
Well, that's the thing to me is that I feel like, Rob, one of the things, obviously, like, you know, we're all people, we have friends, we
Yep.
you know, have bonds out there, and one of the fastest ways to make bonds with people is talking about a third party, whether positive or negative, kind of like bonding, you know, getting each other's takes on things, thoughts on things. So I think throwing a couple names out there, or even being like, I don't know about this person, they're not talking to me, that is good social bonding exercises for later, so that they have your back in case something happens. And I feel like what went wrong with Dan was he didn't have that. So when he's like, I have this name, they're like, well, good morning, it's been 4 days. You finally gave me one.
Yeah.
You know, like you and like you don't have to be the spearhead on it. You don't have to be like, okay, I think it's Kevin, we have to ban. You don't need to do that. It's just like, man, Kevin's not been talking to me and I find that suspicious. Like, oh, you find that suspicious? Why is that? Oh, it's because like I feel like he's talking to other people. Like I see him bonding with Pete all the time. And then next thing you know, you're having a little water cooler gossip session and you're bonding. You're becoming better friends.
I think Peter has done this well. I mean, I don't I think Peter's going to go soon and he's like, you know, the Scooby-Doo or whatever. But I think I love people where I feel like I can be in cahoots with them. Like I find it so attractive when somebody seems like a good person to be in cahoots with. Peter just clearly is good at that, right? He's good at kind of like the strategy about hiding the shield, telling other people, and the way that he did that not just alone, but with his like weird, you know, ragtag friends. Like I think he actually has that ability really well that Dan does not, right? Of like kind of garnering trust with people by kind of casting dispersions on others.
Well, the problem with him is, I agree with everything you said. The problem with him though is he gives the guy that needs you to know he's in cahoots with people. You know, it's like back in the day, throwing the Facebook status update and be like, yeah, just scheming with Sophie tonight should be a good one. It's like, you could have just not said that and schemed anyway. But yeah, he does have the skill to like bring people in clearly.
Yeah.
Sophie, we have a question from Weston who wants to know, is there any world where Sandra's faithfuls and Peter faithfuls can put aside their differences to take out Parvity and Phaedra, or will this civil wars turn into a stalemate with the traitors winning?
Well, so I was thinking about this. In my mind, like this is basically turned into a Survivor game, right? Like, and the only reason in my mind for those faithfuls to gang up would be if people start to realize that they're on the bottom of the alliance. So like, if Peter has what, is it 5 or 6 of them?
Pete's pals,
if some of Pete's pals and some of Sandra's pals
probably
realize,
4 after maybe one of them gets murdered.
Right. Like if they start to think, or let's talk about Sandra's group, right? Because that's the bigger group. There's going to be people in there who say, what happens after we get rid of Pete's pals? Like, am I next? And then I think we might see kind of natural Survivor bottom of the pack flops happen. I'm still not seeing the world where it makes a lot of sense to get rid of the traitors unless I misunderstand the end game, because it seems like the worst thing to do is to not know who the traitors are. Right. If you know who the traitors are, you should be okay.
Yeah, because I think ultimately with what Sandra has put out there, realizing that I don't want a new traitor thrown in because I've already caught them. I already know who they are, so I'm just holding that as bait for later on. But I think to your point, if a couple people from each side are like, hey, listen, I see the writing on the wall, in like 2 cycles, we're going to get murdered or banished. Let's just get rid of one of them because I think ultimately once a Parv leaves, it might kind of reset everything down to level 0 again, because they're like, okay, who got recruited next? And now there's more suspicions, new investigations going on. But I feel like it's so tough because I think the opportunity to get the Civil War kind of may have died now, because I feel like, I feel like with this twist, I think it kind of reset everything. Sandra clearly has a moment where she says, I don't even think Pete's a traitor, so I don't know about that. I think CT clearly is playing the middle and kind of showed his hand by not saving one of the people on the Sandra side. So I think we may have already seen a reset happen. And then obviously whoever they end up murdering here could have a ripple effect of what the rest of the game is to come. But I think ultimately, like we discussed at the top here, doing a unity exercise with the rest of the faithfuls only means that down the line you're going to end up exactly where you are right now, which is you don't know who the traitors are, but also you have people you're trusting, and you're still going to end up factioning up probably.
Okay. Sophie, Pranay wants to know, who from Winners at War, apart from yourself, do you want to see on season 3 of The Traitors? And why is it Kim Spradlin?
I mean, I would love to see Kim because I think Kim has great style, and I would love to see what she would do in the castle.
She'd redecorate the whole castle.
Yeah. Kim also, I think, would be I mean, Kim as a traitor would be great because I think Kim has that same Suri vibe of people love her, people gravitate towards her. The idea of Kim betraying you is like unfathomable. So yes, would love to see Kim. Frankly, like Tyson, I think proved on the challenge, like he's just great TV. Everywhere he's dropped, just put him anywhere.
Yep.
I think also Tyson would have a lot of fun with the like environment of the whole thing. Like I want to see people who would really lean into that.
He'd be a no-brainer.
Yeah, so Tyson, I agree with Kim. Like again, like I guess Rob, if I'm a casting agent, I would go with Florida Rob just to
I totally know see why you would want him, but we've talked about this a little bit this season. Do you think he would be good in the Traitors, especially if he wasn't a traitor?
He would give like a couple of, I can't do the impression, but like he would give a couple of those lines. I don't like, I have a hard time imagining him making a splash and being anything particular, but like if I had to switch out Cherie for Rob, I would probably do that.
Sure. Seems like a no-brainer.
Anybody particularly spectacular I would choose on Winners at War. Oh my God.
What about
Nick
Tony?
Would be creepy.
What about Tony? Yeah. I don't think he's getting the invite, but what about Tony?
I mean, I'm not looking at Winners at War now. I'm looking at Game Changers. I say this tongue in cheek, but actually, though, I do think the Traitors, like, I'm excited for the Traitors as a franchise, but I really think right now it's at this, like, I worry it's at this precipice of, like, could it become boring? Like, could the rest of the season get boring if it truly turns into this, like, numbers game? Who cares about the Traitors? Tony has shown that he's a game changer, that like he's going to bring something to the table, some kind of idea that somebody hasn't thought of before.
He'll be hiding in the mansion.
Exactly. So like I would say yes to Tony. There's a lot of people I would say no to. I would do Nick, but like maybe if he was like a vampire in the shadows or something. But no, I'd say yes to Tony, yes to Kim, yes to Tyson. My God, is there any like there's a lot of no's on there.
Okay. Well, how about this one from not from Winners at War, but Tom Fratz wants to know, how would Coach do on the Traitors?
Oh boy. I think Coach would not do well with these Bravo women because I don't know, in the first episode or so, like the Bravo people were just using the most insane reasons that somebody was a traitor. It was like they looked in the wrong direction or I mean, that's my other issue. There's nothing to go on in this game. But I think Coach would just be like outed as a traitor despite being a faithful for just like lying about things, for being like a massive, what is it, a confabulatist or whatever. Yeah. But also like, I feel like people are going to lean into the theme and Coach would definitely lean into the theme. You know that Coach would memorize like a whole bunch of quotes from, I don't know, old English detective stories or something before he went out there.
I could see it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wish though that I would like leaning into this like whole other world thing. I kind of would like, this is where it gets into like guessing game mechanics and things, but I think it'd be fun if the people had more like defined roles. Like I like the Faithfuls, I like the Traitors. I think it'd be cool if there was like a detective or two.
Doctor.
Yeah. Like I was trying to think like ways that you could combat against the Sandra strategy. Like if you had like bounty hunters who like were just individualists who got cash if they could identify a traitor, right? So then they weren't maybe as motivated by this whole like end game, strategy. I just think it'd be fun if there was people playing into more roles because watching the Traitors lean into the traitor role is so fun.
So I've always pushed back on this specifically because I've like watched and played games of Mafia where the new cycle begins and someone's like, well, I detected Rob and he's Mafia. And then the rest of the round is just Rob be like, no, it's not. You're nuts. You don't know what you're talking about. And then it's just going to be a standard vote out. But I have had a thought, Sophie, and I want to know what your thought is on this of a role. There are, similar to like an Among Us role or these other games, it's called the Jester, where their objective is to get banished. They want to get banished. And I think it would be very fun if they introduced one of this person and their objective is you are trying to get banished before like the final 10 or something like that. And if they get banished, they get 20K off the prize pot and they just leave. Because I think that would be a fun way of someone clearly trying to seem like a traitor, but then also you're not trying to have them voted out because you lose the prize pot. I think that'll be very fun to kick drama up, and then it might also ruin plans, because if they hide their identity well, then they can always try and like make your faction thing a mess.
I love it. I really hope they start to introduce some. I think there's so many like cool ideas, places they could go with Traitors. And as much as we all hate the Survivor introduced twists and we all wish it would go back to season 1 Borneo, I want to see the evolution of the Traitors. It'd be fun.
Sophie, do you think that your experience in reality game masters will help you in the Traitors?
Yes, definitely. I mean, reality game masters, I think, was like the first
Ahead of
ever
its time.
reality crossover, wasn't it?
It was the Traitors of the last decade.
Yeah.
Yes.
Completely. Having to deal with I don't even remember the name of all those Big Brother players. The guy with
Eric,
blonde
Matt,
hair.
and Ian.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes. So, all right. Well, Sophie, I know.
Sorry, I have a question.
Yes.
Sorry. This is your interview, but I have a question. Does this make you at all, like, I really am torn on this. Does this make you at all wish for more reality crossover in Survivor? Like, I think the Big Brother people have always wanted to play Survivor. I'm sure Challenge people do. Like, would you want to see maybe not celebrity Survivor, but like reality Survivor?
Well, I do wonder if they could do some type of like reindeer games-esque, like maybe like short season version of Survivor. But
is 29 days not the short season?
Yeah. With all due respect to some of these other people that we would bring in, I think there would be very few people, I feel like, that could keep up with the survivors on Survivor.
Yeah.
If that's not too much of a incendiary remark for social media.
No, I mean, like, imagine Parvity and Sandra with like Phaedra playing Survivor. Yeah, it doesn't seem fair.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, we all could barely keep up with Coach, so you know.
Yeah, especially when you're talking about like legends of like 4 and 5 time players. But I mean, I was thinking of like your average like run of the mill Big Brother contestant just getting dropped into a Survivor season with returning players.
Yeah,
not even the legends.
Yeah, Rob, would you want to play the Traitors?
I would play the Traitors. Yes, I think that would be interesting enough to go do that. Do the Traitors want me? I think is a better question.
I mean, I do think that one of the things the Traitors is missing from the show, and I kind of think that the Bling Empire guy plays that role. I watch his show, and he plays the role on his show as well, Kevin, is the kind of like, ooh, like, who am I in this kind? Not that you would, sorry, I don't know why this brought this up, because this is not the role you would play. But like, kind of like the, like, what is going on? I've just like been dropped here. Like, I'm your straight guy. I'm the audience. You would not play that. Sorry, Rob. That was not relevant to you at all. You are, you know, Parvity mixed with Sandra. Mixed with
Sure. Yes. The Ice King is what I would be.
Yeah.
But no, I appreciate that. But yeah, it would be, I mean, like, why wouldn't anybody go?
Exactly.
Is anybody like, oh, like, you know, my reputation was like, get over yourself.
What reality star has a reputation?
Just go to Scotland.
Yeah.
Just go to Scotland.
Like,
it's 2
days?
weeks. It's 2 weeks. Like,
yeah.
You know, I people have like all the reasons in the world not to do Survivor and certainly not to do Big Brother, but to go to the castle for a couple of weeks.
Yeah. It's so fascinating, like, in the Survivor community to have this, because I feel like for so long, it was like like there was always this itch people had to go back a second time, right? There was always this like gravitas around the second time, but like there's not that many return seasons, there's not that much opportunity. But I feel like this opening of the door of the Traitors and frankly the challenge, I think it's like
Deal or No Deal Island.
Yeah, Deal or No Deal Island, that other bad one that Stephanie LaGrossa was on. Like, I almost think it's created this kind of like, it's like reawakened the, you know, the old Survivor monsters. Yes. And like you're going to have like people from season 3 kind of itching to get on the Traitors. Do you want to see Russell on the Traitors? Or are you like,
no, I don't think so. I think that we don't. I don't think we need it. I don't think we need it.
I don't need it.
Yeah.
I don't need that.
All right. Well, Sophie, we'll let you go before you disappear into the darkness. Like, but if we have any other questions for Sophie?
No, I'm very happy we got to have you on, Sophie. And I would say what you just described as saying you wish there were more Kevins where they're kind of like the audience, they don't know what's going on. I do recommend check out Traitors UK because that's 2 seasons of full civilian, just like regular people, and it plays out exactly like that. And it's a lot more, people are a lot more dramatic and losing their minds throughout the rounds. They're a lot less composed as opposed to our reality alums. So I would say give it a watch.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
If you need any links, let us know. Okay. Sophie, anything you want to tell people to check out?
Man.
Any
Oh,
plugs?
man. I'm supposed to have a plug here. If anybody wants to buy sourdough, I can sell you a loaf of sourdough here in the Boston area.
Okay. Well,
Is that a
Sophie,
first?
yeah, that is a first. Certainly since 2020. I don't think anybody else has come on to plug their sourdough. But Sophie, thank you so much, and you know, we appreciate you. I know you got to run if you wanna hop off. Okay.
Okay. Bye,
Okay.
guys.
Thank you for
Pooya,
making
so
the
nice
time,
to meet
Sophie.
you.
Nice to meet you too, Sophie.
Bye.
Take care.
All right. Bye. Okay. All right, Pooya. That was exciting.
That was a lot of fun. It's
Yeah.
a lot of fun. That's the thing I've been loving, Rob, about the Traitors. And I think, you know, the US doing it the way they're doing. I feel like we're getting so many people who are watching it for the first time and are getting into it. And that opens a lot of doors and opportunity for us to talk to different people. And I'm very grateful for that opportunity.
This has been really, really fun. Of course, did you see this from the other day? So we last week had the great Wes Bergman and his wife Amanda on the podcast with us to talk Traitors. Wes told a story about how he got mistaken for Travis Kelce, and then that story was picked up by Us Weekly.
Yep, they picked it up right from our podcast and put it on Us Weekly.
Look, no issue here. They credited us for it being on the show. So there you go. So we'll see if anything that Sophie said gets picked up by the media.
We'll see.
We'll see. Okay. All right. So that was very fun. Also, Pooya, the word on the street is that we could be getting something that we've been waiting for all season long. That is this going to be the week that Dr. Will stops by the Traitors?
Yes, we have finally gotten all but like a soft confirmation that Dr. Will be making his appearance, his cameo, if you will, on this upcoming episode. I'm so curious to see how he's going to be linked in with the episode, but
yeah, here's Dr. Will shared this post on social media. He brought wolves.
I brought wolves.
Okay. Now, it does make a question that is Dr. Will Team Jacob or Team Edward?
He seems like he'd be Team Edward to me.
He's definitely giving Team Edward, but yet he is hanging with the wolves.
He is. He brought wolves, Rob.
He brought the wolves.
Apparently. So
we'll
hashtag's a movement. Hashtag I brought wolves.
But definitely is giving major Cullen vibes.
Yes.
From the great Dr. Will. Very much looking forward to seeing Dr. Will.
Yeah, no, I'm very excited to see how this plays into the episode. I have made my prediction that he's going to be hosting one of the challenge this week. The mission is what I think is happening, but we'll see.
Okay.
We'll see if it brings anything else.
My all-time fave. Very much looking forward to seeing Dr. Will back on the Traitors. Pooya, anything else Traitors related you want to talk about?
Well, Rob, as of yesterday, there's information, new news dropping about 2 members of this cast of the Traitors.
Oh,
2 members who are already gone from the cast, mind you. But there's a breakup, Rob. Larsa and Marcus Jordan seem to have called it quits.
Okay, now is this the first breakup? The first breakup never takes.
I don't know, but all I know is that Larsa deleted all the photos she had with Marcus on her Instagram grid and then added a story to her Insta story with a poll of, should your friends unfollow your ex? And it was a yes or no.
Yeah.
So
okay. All right.
And this before the reunion too, Rob. So the reunion about to get a little spicy, I think.
Getting a little spicy. I don't know if they're gonna address this at the Traitors reunion. I don't know. What do you think? I guess Andy Cohen is going to go
Yeah,
there, right?
it's gonna come up for sure. Given how many different news publications are posting about it, this is gonna be a hot ticket item at the reunion for sure now that they're
Too bad
gonna
it
talk
couldn't have
about.
happened on the Traitors.
That would have been messy.
Okay.
And then
There you go.
they would have banished Larsa because hey, y'all were fighting, so you definitely did murder.
All right. Well, let's see what happens there. Do you think that maybe Larsa could start dating any of the other guys from the cast? Pilot Pete?
I don't know. I don't know if I want that for, quite frankly, either of them.
British John?
No, that's a catch right there.
Okay. All right, Pooya. So we will be back at 10:15 p.m. Eastern to do some more Traitors live after the episode. Should be a fun one coming up. We'll see what Dr. Will has up his sleeve and much more. 10:15 Eastern for the live show. Maybe a little bit earlier. Sometimes we are fired up. Don't be like messing around. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel here on YouTube. robbinswebsite.com/YouTube to make sure you don't miss it when we go live, and robbinswebsite.com/subscribe for everything we're doing on the podcast. Pooya, what else is coming up for you?
Well, people can find me on socials, Twitter at Pooyaism, twitch.tv/Pooya. That's where I am when I'm not podcasting. And I've been there quite a bit recently, so definitely check that out. 90 days on hiatus this week, but we'll be back with some more next week, so that'll be good. One last thing I did want to say is we are 10 reviews away from 100 reviews on the Traitors RHAP up. So please, if you haven't left your feedback yet, if you haven't given us
How do
5
people
stars,
do that? How do people leave a review for the Traitors RHAP?
robbinswebsite.com/traitors, TRAITORS.
Okay. All right. We could do better than 10. Come on. There's more than 90 people listening to the podcast. Come on.
Please.
It's very sus if you don't. That's all I'm saying.
Nice.
Okay. All right. Pooya, great job. Thank you so much to Sophie Clarke. And then we will be back on Thursday to talk some more Traitors. Take care, everybody. Have a good one. Bye.